for the module on causality, observation versus experiment, this lecture segment will continue the example of studies of smoking and lung cancer, and we'll talk about a cohort study. So our friends Dahl and Hill, after some of the skepticism that was raised from their case control study, proceeded to do what we today call a cohort study. So one of the papers published from this was titled Lung Cancer and Other Causes of Death in Relation to Smoking, a second report on the mortality of British doctors. And there was a first report. I'm kind of skipping that because the data are more, just time went by and they had more data for the second report. So again, they're in the British Medical Journal, the same pair of a physician and a statistician working together. So how could you go wrong? So let's talk about the design of this cohort study. So in 1951, they sent a simple questionnaire to all members of the medical profession in the United Kingdom. So you might be asking yourself, why the medical profession? I mean, really, in terms of the cause and effect question, you could have used any other profession, or you could have not cared about people's profession. Anybody could be a smoker, anybody could get lung cancer, right? So the real reason is, and again, you see exactly the same issue in a lot of studies today, the real reason is they have a list of members of the medical profession and they have their addresses. That's why. Also because I think they thought that the medical profession would be more motivated to participate and to send the questionnaire back compared to people who weren't interested in health. Okay, so out of those questionnaires they sent out, over 40,000 of them were completed and returned. And those doctors concerned have been followed until March 31st, 1956. And so among those 40,000 doctors, 1,714 deaths have been reported among males aged 35 and older, and that's who they're going to report on. So these are the results of Dahl and Hill's study of the British doctors cohort. Now, remembering that the smoking status was based on a questionnaire that they completed in 1950 at the beginning, or 51 at the beginning of the study while they were alive, and then the disease status, so that's the two columns, smokers and non-smokers, and the disease status down the left side is what they died of, later after completing the questionnaire. So a total of 84 deaths from lung cancer were observed in these 40,000 men. But interestingly, this equated to, among the non-smokers, 0.07 deaths per 1,000 men per year. Among the smokers, 0.9 deaths per 1,000 per year. So this is quite a striking difference. So this is the main hypothesis of the study, and on the question of smoking and lung cancer, it's more than 10 times higher of a lung cancer death rate among the smokers compared to the non-smokers. Now, some of these other diseases were not actually a primary motivation for conducting the study, but again, as long as they're going through their paper death certificates and looking at what people died of, they went ahead and tallied these. So between the non-smokers and the smokers, we actually see almost no difference in deaths from other cancers, 2.04 versus 2.02 deaths per 1,000 per year from other cancers. So in some ways, do you think that this sort of strengthens the specificity of the association with lung cancer because we don't see it in other cancers? Had they continued to carry this out, a lot of data today would tell you that smoking is implicated in death from quite a few other cancers, but probably none of the others are as strong as lung cancer. So this is an interesting aspect of their study, is that they showed this very specific association with lung cancer and not other cancers. What about respiratory diseases? Here we again see an excess of deaths among smokers, 1.13, compared to non-smokers, 0.81 per 1,000, but not as striking as the contrast with lung cancer deaths. Coronary thrombosis, 4.87 deaths per 1,000 among smokers, only 4.22 per 1,000 person years among non-smokers. So this was not, I believe, was not a primary hypothesis going into the study that the cardiovascular system was affected by smoking, but this evidence does begin to show that. And of course, an entire large field of other research and evidence began to be compiled about the impact of cigarette smoking on heart disease. So compared to the case control study, to these results with the 0.9 per thousand compared to 0.07 per thousand, if you had been skeptical from what we saw before in the case control study, might you now be more convinced now that you've seen this data? So the assessment of smoking status was before the people had lung cancer, so we can no longer make that argument that they started smoking because it's so smoothing to the lungs. We don't have to worry about people who have lung cancer lying about their past smoking history because they provided the smoking information before they had lung cancer. So some of the issues from the case control study are now better addressed. I think most people would agree that a cohort study is more convincing in terms of being able to assess cause and effect compared to a case control study. So again, putting yourself in the place of a doctor who was never told that smoking was bad for you. Now, when this study comes out, are you going to start giving a different message to your patients?